Larry Holder, Jeff Duncan here with you. Saints going to be heading to Minnesota, take on the Vikings Sunday afternoon at US Bank Stadium. It's going to be frigid outside, indoor stadium though, and the Saints have played there, and yet that in and of itself, US Bank Stadium, awesome stadium, but boy, that place is going to be rocking. And there's, you could look at it, it's going to be rocking because they feel like this Vikings team is Super Bowl worthy up in Minneapolis. And there are some other factors too that maybe the Vikings have a little bit of venom toward the Saints, given the last time they played in the playoffs. One team threw a pick historically, and the other team went and won the Super Bowl, and that would be the Saints winning the Super Bowl and Brett Favre throwing the pick to Tracy Porter.
Yeah, I think Saints fans in general don't have a lot of enmity toward the Vikings. They think of the Falcons and the Carolina Panthers, of course, divisional opponents, but there's some history between these two teams. You mentioned that NFC Championship game in 2009. That still sticks in the craw of Vikings fans. Not only was that the genesis of the bounty scandal that the Vikings turned the Saints in for to the NFL, but it also was heartbreaking for the Vikings. That was a 13-3 Vikings team that a lot of people felt like in Brett Favre's final years could have won the Super Bowl as well, and they outplayed the Saints in that game, doubled them in total yardage, but committed 5 turnovers. This is a team that I think historically has done well against the Saints. They're 13-3 against the Saints in Minneapolis. One of those games I covered early on in my career, in 2000, they beat the Saints in this same level of game, a divisional round playoff, really dominated that game. So I think the Saints, in other words, I don't think are going to sneak into town and steal one from the Vikings. They're going to have to earn this one because these Vikings fans know what's at stake. They're 2 steps away from being the first team ever to play in their own stadium for the Super Bowl.
And, oh, by the way, Minneapolis beat New Orleans heads up for this Super Bowl.
This should be our game.
Exactly.
And should be our Super Bowl.
Most people, as far as people we work with and peers around the country, would say the same thing because they always want the Super Bowl here in New Orleans. But look, historically, too, for the Vikings, got into the Super Bowl, never won the Super Bowl. So, sure, the Saints are going up there as an underdog, but to me, and I would assume you would agree, the pressure is on Minnesota because this is a golden opportunity for them to get to a Super Bowl again and win one potentially in their backyard.
Well, I think you would agree with me. Whoever wins this game, I think, is going to be favored in the NFC Championship game, wherever it is, because the Eagles, we know, are playing without Carson Wentz, and the Falcons are going to have to play on the road. If they win, they're going to have to play either in New Orleans or Minnesota. So I think both teams know what's at stake here. If they win this game, they've got a great shot to get to the Super Bowl, and the Vikings have a chance to play it at home where they're very difficult to beat. They'd have an inherent advantage in the Super Bowl against whoever they were to play. So a lot on the line here. 2 coaches that know each other very well. Sean Payton, Mike Zimmer coached on the same staff together in Dallas. So there's not going to be a lot of surprises here. They played each other enough over the years to know each other. So it's going to be a tight game. I don't see this one being a blowout either way.
Do you think Sean Payton pulls the ultimate troll job and has Adrian Peterson run out the tunnel in a Saints jersey?
Oh, yeah, like the Reggie Bush line?
Right, exactly.
I just want to know what that skull Viking thing is that they play there. If you've been to Minnesota, they have this weird Viking Scandinavian chant that they pipe into the stadium. And, look, it's a crazy environment there. I know, like you said, it's going to be cold outside. It's going to be frenetic inside. And how the Saints handle that atmosphere and that noise level is going to be a key for them in the game.
Skull doesn't exactly flow off the tongue like Who Dat.
Right, but it's their version of Who Dat. And there'll be a lot of Who Dats up there. I don't know how many tickets they're going to be able to pick up, but they will be out in force trying to minimize that home field advantage.
Definitely going to be quite the atmosphere at US Bank Stadium Sunday afternoon. So don't forget, we will be there in droves here at NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. We'll be heading up there. We'll actually be doing Duncan Holder up in Minneapolis on Monday to recap the game. And, of course, we'll bring all of our reporters, photographers, so we'll be covering Saints-Vikings heavily here at NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. So for Jeff Duncan, I'm Larry Holder. Thanks for joining us.